सुखदेव थोरात सरांबद्दल थोडंसं ब्रीफ करतो आहे. प्रोफेसर एमेरिटस जवाहरलाल नेहरू युनिव्हर्सिटी मी सांगितलं आहे. KR नारायणन चेअर ऑनररी फॉर ह्युमन राईट्स अँड सोशल जस्टिस महात्मा गांधी युनिव्हर्सिटी कोट्टायम केरला. विजिटिंग प्रोफेसर डॉक्टर भीमराव रामजी आंबेडकर चेअर युनिव्हर्सिटी ऑफ Calicut Malappuram Kerala. Chairman of Indian Institute of Dalit Studies New Delhi. Chairman Institute of Social and Economic Change Bangalore. Previously he was chairman of Indian Council of Social Science Research New Delhi from 11 to 17. Then chairman of University Grant Commission 6 to 11 2006 to 2011. Then professor in JNU, Jawaharlal Nehru University, one of the prestigious universities in India, 1980 to 2014. And distinguished professor, Savitribai Phule University, Pune from 2015 to 2017. सर ने उनकी जो डिग्रीज है वो है PhD, MPhil, जवाहरलाल नेहरू यूनिवर्सिटी न्यू दिल्ली. ही इज डॉक्टर ऑफ लिटरेचर आल्सो ऑनररी डिग्री है. और 12 universities, can you imagine, 12 universities from India and one university from outside India have awarded honorary Doctor of Literature, DSc, then DSc Doctor of Education and LLD also, जो बाबासाहेबांना कोलंबियाने दिलेले LLD. The university, दिवसभर लागेल. जास्त ब्रीफच सांगत आहे, जास्त नाही सांगत आहे, only brief. The University Technology Mauritius conferred Doctor of Literature at a special convocation on August 2009. सरांचा रिसर्च वर्क जे आहे तो एरिया तो सांगणं गरजेचं आहे. ॲग्रिकल्चर डेव्हलपमेंट, रुरल पॉवर्टी, इन्स्टिट्यूशन अँड इकॉनॉमिक ग्रोथ, प्रॉब्लेम्स ऑफ मार्जिनलाइज्ड ग्रुप्स, इकॉनॉमिक्स ऑफ कास्ट सिस्टम, कास्ट डिस्क्रिमिनेशन अँड पॉवर्टी, human development, human rights issues, thoughts of Ambedkar, slums, education, policies for marginalized groups. आणि सरांचा जो टोटल जो 40 इयर्सचा टीचिंगचा एक्सपिरियन्स आहे, त्यांनी बरेचसे बुक्स पब्लिश केलेले आहे. बाबासाहेबांचं राष्ट्राकरिता काय योगदान आहे, बाबासाहेबांचं नेशन बिल्डर, राष्ट्र निर्माते ज्यांना आपण म्हणतो बाबासाहेबांना, सरांनी आता सांगितलं, पटेल सरांनी आता सांगितलं, इट शुड नॉट बी कन्फाइन्ड टू एनी पर्टिक्युलर टॅग, दलित दिस अँड दॅट. नो, ही वॉज अ ट्रू राष्ट्र निर्माता, नेशन बिल्डर. आणि सरांनी जे पुस्तक लिहिलेलं आहे ते माझ्याकडे कॉपी आहे. आय स्पेशली मेन्शन फॉर ऑल ऑफ यू टू गो थ्रू दॅट बुक. इट्स व्हेरी व्हेरी इम्पॉर्टंट बुक. बाबासाहेबांची वॉटर पॉलिसी आणि पॉवर सेक्टरमध्ये काय कॉन्ट्रीब्युशन आहे ते अमेझॉनवर अवेलेबल आहे. यू गो टू अमेझॉन, डॉक्टर सुखदेव थोरात टाकायचं, तिथे सगळे बुक्स होते सरांची, त्यातलं बुक्स वाचा. इमन्स कॉन्ट्रीब्युशन बाबासाहेबांच्या या देशाकरता आहे. तर सरांनी याच्यामध्ये फंडामेंटल जे कार्य आहे, महत्त्व सांगणं हे आहे की याच्यामध्ये फंडामेंटल जो कार्य किया है प्रोफेसर सुखदेव थोरात साहब ने किया हुआ है. या तो देयर आर सो मेनी बुक्स एंड अवार्ड्स. अभी बड़ा मुश्किल है बताना, सर ने बोला मुश्किल हो जाएगा. पद्मश्री तो आपको बताया, डॉक्टर अम्बेडकर अवार्ड फॉर सोशल अंडरस्टैंडिंग एंड अपलिफ्टमेंट ऑफ वीकर सेक्शन by Dr. Ambedkar Foundation, Ministry of Social Justice. Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar Ratna Award 2012-13, Government of National Capital Territory of Delhi. Mother Teresa International Award for Outstanding Achievement and Contribution towards the people of our nation by All India Minority and Weaker Section Council, Kolkata. Dr. Ambedkar Chetna Award by Manavtavadi Rachna Manch, Jalandhar, Punjab. In March 2011, in recognition of his promoting the cause of Dalits. Award by Maharashtra Sahitya Academy, Pune. Annabhau Sathe Award for Marathi Culture and Language, Sansthan, Mumbai, Government of Maharashtra for book Vanchitanche Vartaman, Present Situation of Depressed Group. And last, Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar Smriti Award, Marwadi Foundation, Nagpur. India Matters, selected as one of the 100 prominent Indian persons by India Matters. You must be knowing India Matters. So Saab was one of them. And Dalit eminence included in the list of 10 eminent Dalits who occupied the higher position for the first time under series of Dalit eminence. So, थकलो, मला दम लागला. तो सरांना मी बहुत ही सम्मान के साथ में, बड़े आदर के साथ में, मेरे पास शब्द शायद कम पड़ रहे होंगे कि इतने बड़े जो इंटरनेशनल लुमिनरीज हमारे साथ में यहाँ विराजमान है, हमारा सौभाग्य है. और इसमें मैंने एक छोटा सा रोल प्ले किया, इसका मुझे अतीव आनंद है, बहुत सुख है, बहुत सेटिस्फैक्शन है. सो आई इन्वाइट प्रोफेसर सुखदेव थोरात सर to for this discourse today.
Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar was not the leader of Dalit and deprived people alone. Indeed he was, but he was not the leader of Dalit alone, but he worked for the country as a whole. And he contributed in nation building. And you people have rightly mentioned here architect of modern India. One of the architects of modern India. I will therefore, what I will do is present before you in as simple word in English and in Hindi, Dr. Ambedkar's role in nation building. That if he was awarded the Bharat Ratna or he was selected by the people on India Today count, the greatest Indian after Gandhi. Gandhiji was not in the picture in that competition. So I think Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar indeed deserved to be one of the greatest Indian, deserved to be Bharat Ratna, who contribute in rebuilding of India. It is this, some of this fact that I would like to present before you, because Dr. Ambedkar, Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar is considered as a leader of the oppressed and depressed, maker of the constitution, and a couple of other spheres. But his multiple contribution in nation building is ignored or perhaps not known to the people. We don't study Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar that point of view. And I do remember that when I went to meet the President of India, the earlier President of India, to meet him. And he said, Professor Thorat, everybody recognized Dr. Ambedkar as a maker of Indian Constitution, leader of the Dalit. And you had said somewhere that he has played a multiple role in nation building. Why don't you write it down and bring it in the public domain, that his role in multiple sphere. And I tried to do it, and I publish it and send it to him, the copy. It is this research of on the multiple contribution of Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar that I will, in another 40-45 minutes, make you aware his contribution and make you realize that it's very difficult to find a person like him who has contributed in nation building. There are many people during that period of time, but hardly one finds a person who has contributed in so many spheres of national importance. I am not talking of Dalit, of national importance, and a person can do this thing provided he is immensely committed to the national cause. He loves his country. And the account that I will present you will make you believe that how he was important. Dr. Ambedkar came back from London after his studies in Columbia University from 13 to 16, and then from 16 to 17, late 1970, he registered for DSc, MSc, and of course PhD Columbia University. When he came back here, he did not have any degree, as a matter of fact, except the MA Economics. And there are a large number of books we say that Dr. Ambedkar got a PhD in 1960. Huge mistakes are made, including Shashi Tharoor. Dr. Ambedkar got PhD from Columbia University in 1927. Before that, he got DSc from London School of Economics, and MSc around that time, 1923-24. So when he came here, he wrote a letter to the Sidneyam College, the government of Bombay's presidency. He had applied for a job in Sidneyam College. There he has clearly mentioned that he completed the requirement for PhD at Columbia University and also registered for BSc in London School of Economics. The important point that you have to remember that when he came here and joined Sidneyam College, his first political engagement was in 1990, and that was the memorandum that is submitted to the South Bureau Commission. The South Bureau Commission came to India from London to seek the opinion of the people to make changes in the British Constitution. You must understand that British India was ruled under the Act, what is called British Act. And sometime there was a provision that after every 10 years, the Britisher would send a commission to India, seek the opinion of the Indian for a modification in the British India Act, take those suggestions and go back and make modification. The South Bureau Commission came in 1919, that was after 10 years, and Dr. Ambedkar saw an opportunity to place the grievances, the demand of the depressed classes. At that time, the word used for depressed classes, not the scheduled caste. And so that is the first written statement of Dr. Babasaheb describing the problem of untouchables, their pathetic situation, and giving the solution for the first time. And he submitted the memorandum. And then, of course, again after 10 years, in 1929, Simon Commission came, again he submitted a memorandum. And then you had a series of roundtable conferences in London, which led to the 1935 India British Constitution, one of the largest constitution in which Dr. Babasaheb has played an important role. But that's not important. The point is that Dr. Babasaheb's engagement in political life began in 1990, then ended in 1956. One can say with the conversion to Britishism in October 1956. Now, during this period of 35 years, Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar really participated in several activities and contributed in different national events. Now, you must remember one thing, that 1920, the initial year, first year of Dr. Babasaheb in political activity, 1920 to 1950 is a period in Indian history which has built up what we are today as a nation. Because several things happens during this period, and ultimately we had India as a nation through the Constitution. Now 1920, 30, 40, 50, 30-year period, for 30-year period, many events took place, happened, which shaped the character of India as it exists today, as we have it today. And in each of these events, Dr. Babasaheb has played a role. What are those events? First event is that we fought for independence. Congress was established somewhere around middle of the 19th century, and Congress fought for the independence. We eventually got the independence in 1947. We made a constitution in 1949 and accepted in 1950, but the process of constitution making began in 1920. That is the change in the British Act and the 35 British Constitution, and then ultimately the 1950. Now, the constitution making process was spread over almost 30-year period. Then we got a constitution, our own constitution in 1950. The problem of minorities was at a very high level, which led to violence and ultimately led to partition of India. So the question of minority was very important at that point of time. It shaped the character of India, as a matter of fact, and we continue to shape today as far as the relation between minority and majority is concerned. Reorganization of the state took. We had more than 50 princely states, and we had 3 presidencies: Bombay Presidency, Madras Presidency, and Calcutta Presidency, West Bengal Presidency. And when we got independent, we had a question how to form the state. So we had a state reorganization committee, and we have state now, which is a very important event that decide our character. We had the question of economic development on our agenda in this period. Although the first 5 plans started in 1950, but prior to that, during British period, there were several economic policies which decided the fate of, decided the economic development of India. The question of labor, Dr. Babasaheb was a labor minister during 40 to 46. Question of women, Dr. Babasaheb was a law minister and brought a Hindu code bill. So you can see that there are events that really resulted into what we have today, India as a nation. Now what is important is that Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar not only contributed, I didn't mention that, other than these all events, most important events was rise up and depressed class movement under the leadership of Babasaheb Ambedkar. And then it resulted into several things, political parties, convergence, Buddhism, social movement and all that. I have not mentioned that. I'm keeping that aside for the time being. But all those events which I mentioned one by one, which are very important for the nation building, in each of these events, Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar contributed. When he was in power, he contributed in terms of policies. Whereas he was not in power, he contributed in terms of writing. And writing on the national issues which has remote connection with the problem of depressed classes. A person who is deeply involved in the problem of depressed classes, why should he write on the national issues which are remotely concerned with the elite? Which means he was a nationalist of the highest order, and he was concerned about the events, and he was concerned about how India's future will be shaped. Let me give very briefly, we don't have a time, let me give you briefly on each of these points, what is the contribution of Babasaheb Ambedkar. Independence. Now there are people who say that Babasaheb Ambedkar has not participated in independence as much as he should have been, but that is not true. If you look at the book, what Congress and Gandhi have done to Untouchable, there are last 2 chapters where he answered this question. But that apart, what is important is that Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar supported independence openly. When he went to the first roundtable conference in 1930 in London, Gandhiji and Congress boycotted the first roundtable conference, but for Babasaheb it was an opportunity. He gave a memorandum in 1920, as I said, South Bureau Commission, and he gave another memorandum in 1930, 10 years after Simon Commission came. But then it was followed by a discussion in the London, that is called Roundtable Conference, and Babasaheb was invited. That was the greatest achievement, and so he went there. And when he spoke and very clearly mentioned, I think my paper will be circulated to you. I have given his quotation, what he said in London in the first roundtable conference. The simple meaning of that speech of his was that the untouchable were in a particular situation before British came. And he said that the situation of untouchable has not changed much. What they were before British, they remain even after the British. And he gave the reason that the British do not have the courage to antagonize the high caste, and so that they did not take the issue of caste as untouchable. And he said that we can only progress and we can get something provided we have independence. And he used the word Swaraj, that if we have a Swaraj. And it was a very speech. And right in front of the king sitting there, right in front of the prime minister sitting there, and criticizing the Britishers, that they don't have a capacity to help the Dalit because of their internal limitation. In the evening, there were several princes who were participating in the first roundtable conference, including Sayajirao Gaikwad. And he was so proud and so emotional that the student to whom he had sent to the Columbia University is here to say this thing. So he organized a dinner in honor of Dr. Ambedkar in one of the hotels, and he invited all the princes and introduced Dr. Ambedkar that I had given him a fellowship. He went to Columbia, did his PhD, and look at him. That he had promised that if he take education, he will work for the society. He is indeed working for the society. And Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar took each opportunity. He wrote an application and sent the copies of the application to princes to help him financially to start the activities on behalf of the Vaishnav Sabha. Now when he came back, and the instance has been very vividly presented by Patel, that Gandhiji invited him. And so he went there. Apparently Gandhiji did not know that he is a Mahar and untouchable. He thought that he is a progressive Brahmin from Pune, socialist Brahmin and progressive Brahmin. So in Pune, that's why he didn't pay much attention in the beginning. Dr. Ambedkar became very restless. Seva Patel has shown is very nicely and intelligently. So Babasaheb Ambedkar said that, Gandhiji said that you allege me that Congress is not doing anything. And then Babasaheb gave his own answer that, which has been mentioned by the Patel, that Mahatmas have gone, Mahatmas have come, but untouchable has remained untouchable and all that. But Babasaheb used one word. He said, Mahatmaji, I don't have a homeland. And then Gandhiji said that, Dr. Ambedkar, I know. And Babasaheb also said that Congress alleged me to be against independence, and against Congress and against country. Then Gandhiji said, no, that is wrong. You are a nationalist of sterling qualities. This is the sentence of Gandhiji. And Gandhiji said that I know what you shared in the first roundtable conference. The report that I got from London, that you supported independence and spoke very, very seriously. It is after this that the Gandhiji asked, why did the gentleman say that he doesn't have a homeland? And then Mahadev decided to say that, Babuji, he is a Maha, he is untouchable. That's why he said that he doesn't have a homeland. He is not a progressive Brahmin from Pune. The point is that the only difference, so the point that I am making, that Dr. Ambedkar was wholeheartedly for the independence of India. The only difference with the Congress was that he wanted undertaking from the Congress and the British that you will go, but your colonialism will go, your exploitation of India will go, but our exploitation as a untouchable by the Hindus will continue. So we are asking independence for rights, freedom in our own country, equality, lack of without any exploitation. But precisely that is what will not go. Because Hindu will continue to exploit us because of the implementation of the caste system. So Dr. Ambedkar said that I also want independence, but I want program and guarantees for the untouchable that they will be treated equally. And therefore he asked for several measures. I am not going into that again. The only point that I am making is here is that he fought for the independence in his own way. And so somebody says, Shiroi, what's in the False God in that book, Shiroi has mentioned this. Those are very inferior scholarships. But this is what the real story about Dr. Ambedkar's position on independence is. The second point is the constitution making. National issue. Now, constitution contribution of Dr. Ambedkar in constitution making is right from 1920 to 1949. Now, as I share with you that British government will come after every year to India, will set a commission, seek the opinion of the people to change the British government of British Indian Act under which we are controlled. Dr. Babasaheb came in 1990 and he asked for certain right for Dalit. Then in 1930, then in Roundtable Conference, then in Constitution. I don't have time to go into this, but I will make only one point that how Ambedkar contributed, Dr. Ambedkar contributed in constitution making. And while through his memorandum and participation in Roundtable Conference, I am not talking of Indian constitution making, I am talking about the constitution making before the independence. Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar asked for the reservation and other policies for the depressed classes at that time. he also made suggestion as to how the British Constitution should be. And that contribution is for the Constitution building at that point of time. Of course, his role in Indian Constitution is a different story. But there also he contributed. What are his contributions? Say from 1990 to say 1935 Act. And 35 Act was then taken later on when we framed the Indian Constitution. Now Dr. Ambedkar's demand were twofold. One, that untouchables are a minority. You have given the European Christians, Muslim reservation, political reservation. Untouchables are a minority and very oppressed minority. They also need a reservation, political reservation, reservation in job, reservation in education institution, and a law against discrimination and equal rights. I am not again going into that. That's another story. But he asked specifically in his first memorandum the demand for the scheduled caste. But when he asked for a political representation for the scheduled caste to separate electorate like the Muslim, at that time there were no voting rights for ordinary people. Voting rights were confined to rich people, high caste Brahmin and others. So the large majority of the people did not have voting rights. And nomination in the assembly and central assembly was through, representation to the assembly was through nomination by the British. Dr. Ambedkar asked two things. He asked right to vote for everybody, irrespective of economic standing and caste. With whosoever is 20-year-old, he should have a right. Secondly, the representation of the minority and depressed classes in the assembly and in the central legislature in Delhi should be through election and not through nomination. So these are two important demands that he made. Right to vote for everybody, and election representation in the assembly through election and not nomination. And there are several other suggestions that he made. These were the suggestions for constitution making. No other parties. Congress immediately Dr. Ambedkar asked for the right to vote for everybody. But it was Dr. Ambedkar for the first time that right to vote should be for everybody. And that representation in the state assembly and central assembly should be through election. Now when he went to Roundtable Conference in 1930, then he was a member of the Fundamental Right Committee, he was a member of the Federal Committee, he was a member of the Minority Committee. And beside the demand of the scheduled caste and depressed classes, he contributed immensely in the preparation of 1935 Act or 1935 British Constitution. One of the bulkiest constitution, and people watching. Dr. Ambedkar attended all the three conferences, roundtable conferences, first, second, and only very few were invited in the third roundtable conference. It was only Dr. Ambedkar to prepare some portion of the roundtable British Constitution at that point of time. So Dr. Ambedkar, other than the reservation and policies for these depressed classes, a whole lot of contribution come by Dr. Ambedkar on the general issue. What are the taxation and expenditure rights of the provinces at the center? So he was made a member of the Federal Committee. He contributed there. He contributed in fundamental rights. Now these were national issues. These were not issues of Dalit. These were issues which were close to the nation building. And 35 Act, he worked so hard. Gandhiji watched him. It's not just like that Ambedkar was made a chairman of the drafting committee. All Congress stalwart watch his role in 35 Act. Even the Prime Minister, in the British are praising him. His knowledge in jurisprudence, his knowledge in law, his writing skill. Therefore, despite the fact that Dr. Babasaheb and Gandhiji had immense fighting with each other, they had respect also. It is Gandhiji and others suggested the name of Dr. Babasaheb to be the member of the drafting committee and also eventually the chairman of the drafting committee. My point is, remember well, I am not going into this. The only point is Dr. Ambedkar contributed in a general issues related to the Constitution, 1935 and even before that. And so much so that when the Constitutional Assembly was constituted in 1947 and it will prepare the Constitution, Dr. Babasaheb was against it. He said, why do you need a Constitutional Assembly? You have a 1935 Constitution, one of the biggest constitution, British Constitution, take out the British part of it, add something and even the Constitution. That is the size of that Constitution 1935 and Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar's role. But eventually we had a Constitutional Assembly, Babasaheb was there. So Constitution, role in Constitution making what? Role in Constitution means it laid down rules and principles which govern the state. How the state should work. What principle should become the foundation for the governance of the state. Today we have in preamble secularism, socialism and democracy. Those are the principles. Republic and sovereign also, 5 principles, which are the governing principles which are used in running of the state. Now, so Constitution means the rules and regulations, the principle that laid down for the governance of the country. That was the national issue, in which Ambedkar played so much of an important role. And there are unique contributions of Babasaheb Ambedkar. I don't have time to go into this, but only mention one point is that his role is that he was aware about the disintegrated nature of the Indian state. 50 princely states, 3 presidencies pulling towards each other. Some of the state princes refused to be a part of India, state of Hyderabad and Goa, another. So Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar knew this tendency of division and therefore he made the state little more stronger and brought the unity. But there are many people who did not know how to bring the unity. When we bring the 50 princes, princely state and 3 presidents together, it was also Babasaheb Ambedkar. In fact, it was asked, a specific question was asked to him that how will he have a judiciary in this country? He said judiciary will be independent, right from bottom to top. There will be only one bureaucracy. There will be only equal citizenship right. There will be only one military. There will be only one CRP. These are all there will be only All India service. These all will bind together. Also common civil code. Even for the Muslim, he was in favor of the common civil code. That you have your religion, Christians, Sikhs, Buddhists, another, but there should be a common civil code which will bind the country together. Now, these are his contributions. With respect to the Constitution, very small I mention. Just to mention a point, that other than the depressed classes, he contributed in the making of the Constitution and thereby the nation. Second point, that when the British decided that India get independence and that you form the Constitution Assembly and decide your constitution, decide your political system that you want to accept, parliamentary or presidential form, fundamental right and executive, judiciary and legislation. So the Constitutional Assembly was formed. One issue came for discussion, remember well, and that was the British were also notorious. The British said that we give you independence, you are on your own now, but they made one sentence, that princely state, 50 state will have a choice whether to be a part of independent India or an independent country. Imagine the notoricity of the British. As soon as the British make this point, the state of Hyderabad, Goa and one more state, I don't remember, they say we don't want to be a part of India. We will be a separate country. Now what was the response of the Congress? What was the response of Dr. Ambedkar? This was a national issue, a very dangerous situation. Dr. Ambedkar wrote in volume 12, those who are interested, there is a whole 11-page note by Dr. Ambedkar legally criticizing Britishers that if you say that everything will be now decided by the new constitution, Constitutional Assembly, how can you exclude this point that the princely state will have a choice to join or not to join? It is the constitution which will decide whether the princely state should be a part of India or not. He gave a legal argument and sort of criticized British and gave that copy to Patel, who was a home minister, that look, you have to be careful about this. Therefore, Patel is given a credit to uniting all the princely state together. Rightly so, but the ideological and legal advice comes from Dr. Ambedkar. Dr. Dr. Ambedkar did not stop there, but Dr. Ambedkar was so keen about this that he wrote an article in Times of India. I don't know the date will be in that. He wrote an article and justified that the priestly state do not have a right to ask for a separate state. They will have to be part of this. Constitution will decide. These are the national issues. And look at a person. He writes 10, 15 notes, write a letter also. Writing a letter in the newspaper means you are so intense about it. And not only that, he brought out a pamphlet on behalf of the Scheduled Caste Federation, his political party, against Nizam of Hyderabad, for Nizam demanding for a different province. Now you know that Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar has a very nice relation with Nizam of Hyderabad. They give 140 acres of land in Aurangabad for Milling College and other thing. They give loan. Now there is a recent document when I went to Telangana. They showed me a letter that Hyderabad had given, I think, 150 rupees per month or something for education. And when the auditorium of Milling College was foundation showed one let down, the Prime Minister of Hyderabad came. You must have seen that photograph. So much good relation, and yet Dr. Ambedkar brought out a pamphlet on behalf of Scheduled Caste Federation opposing the demand of Hyderabad to be independent nation. And you know what were the consequences? That when Dr. Ambedkar went in Marathwada region to deliver a lecture in a village which fall in the jurisdiction of Hyderabad, not in the Bombay Presidency. There is a river in Marathwada which divide Bombay Presidency in those days, Bombay Presidency and Nizam of Hyderabad. So Dr. Ambedkar was not allowed to enter into that village. But then organized this Sabha exactly in a village which was just across the river but opposite to that village. They took out a procession in about 50-60 bailgadis. Now the incident is celebrated every year in Marathwada region. Now, so much of commitment for the nation, for unity of the nation. Then the minority issue came in 1947. Pakistan wanted a separate country. Jinnah wanted a separate country. And eventually they got it. But the issue was so violent. So much of violence in Bengal and everywhere. It was a minority issue, religious minority issue. It was not an issue of scheduled caste or organized caste. What did Babasaheb do? I am told Babasaheb took a 3-4 month leave and sat in the fort in Ahmedabad. It's not very quite clear, but somebody told me, and wrote that book, Thoughts on Pakistan. In that, he wrote how nations are formed. Is there a case for Pakistan to be an independent nation? Scholarly book. That book became so famous that within 6 months his first edition was out. So Dr. Ambedkar was asked by Thakur, his publisher in Mumbai, to bring out the second edition. So Babasaheb brought out the second edition, but that he changed the title, Pakistan and Partition of India. And that became a very famous book, and the people say that this was the philosophy for creation of Pakistan was given by Babasaheb Ambedkar. But in second edition, Babasaheb said that minority can stay together, majority and minority, under certain conditions. Important point is, I am not going into the content. Religious minority issue was not the issue of different classes, it was a national issue. Massive violence, nobody knew what are the way out. Here is Ambedkar, take out his time, write a book, bring out a second edition. Not only that, he also suggested the way out as to how to deal with the problem of religious minority, Muslim, Christians, and even social minority like scheduled caste. And on behalf of the Scheduled Caste Federation, he brought out a memorandum called Communal Deadlock and Way to Solve It. And gave a suggestion in that if minority has to be safe in a country where there is a majority, then these things would be done. I am not going into detail, that will require a lot of time. But what is important you have to understand is that he not only wrote books but also memorandum submitted to the government, Congress government at that point of time, even Constitutional Assembly, that what are the ways and means you can follow, change the political democracy in a manner such that minorities are safe. And in fact, then what happened is that he took out that portion and included in state and minorities. State and minority is the constitution of Dr. Ambedkar. And that constitution of state of minority was not fully accepted, finally, some aspect of it. But that is his constitution, in which he brought out his suggestion to provide a safeguard to the minorities. You know, the unfortunate story of Dalit is this, let me tell you. Don't feel bad, don't feel. That the most important books of Babasaheb Ambedkar, communal deadlock and made to solve is state and minority, where there is a remedies for upliftment of the scheduled caste. Lifetime wisdom of Babasaheb Ambedkar in 1947. Have you ever seen that there is a discussion on state and minority in communal deadlock? In Bombay or Pune or no? Discussion is on annihilation of caste, but not on the book like State and Minority, where he has given the program and remedies for upliftment of scheduled caste. But the limited point that you have to understand here, that he wrote, he was not in power, but he wrote to deal the problem of religious minority. And what he predicted at that time is happening today. I don't want to say anything, it's a government function. Next issue was, after we got independence, was to reorganization of the state. All the princely states were brought into India. All of them say yes. But Hyderabad and Goa, we had to go for a foolish action. Again, look at Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar's contribution. When Patel realized that Hyderabad is not agreeing, Goa is not agreeing, he argued for a military action. Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar sent a note through his OSD to Patel. That OSD has written in biography that asked Patel to call it a police action, not a military action. Because if it is military action, then Hyderabad will think that it is India which is having an aggression against the state of Hyderabad, nation of Hyderabad, and they might go to United Nations. Call it a police action. Police action will be our internal affair. Look at the love and concern of a man for the united India. But anyway, when all princely states were brought together, three presidencies came together. We had a union of state. But then how to form the state? Commission was set up in 1951, and the state recommended one language, one state. Dr. Ambedkar immediately wrote a rejoinder and brought out a book, Thoughts on Linguistic State. Criticized the entire recommendation of that and suggested the alternative scheme of reorganization of the state. What was that scheme? He said they had recommended one language, one state. Marathi speaking, one state. Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar said language should be the base of the state formation. But why do we need one state for one language? Why not more state of same language? Because if there is a one language, there is a regionalism comes in. You can see Karnataka and Maharashtra. So he said there should be more state of the same language, so you break the regionalism. And second criteria was small state are better than the bigger state. We had a UP, a huge state, and it is UP who decided who will be the Prime Minister. It continued to decide even today. Therefore, Babasaheb Ambedkar was saying that have a small state, let the language be a base of the state, but have a small state. And then third criteria he has given, financially it should be viable, and fourth criteria is given that when you chalk out the state, see to it that one particular community doesn't become minority. These four criteria he has given, and then what he did, he didn't stop there. He gave the map and actually given the state in Thoughts on Linguistic State. So Maharashtra 3 states, Andhra Pradesh 2 states, Telangana was formed on the recommendation of Babasaheb Ambedkar, UP 4 states, Bihar 3 states, Madhya Pradesh 3 states. So he gave his scheme. This was a national issue, this was not a Dalit issue. It is Dr. Ambedkar who did this. Look at the patriotic feeling of a person. And so all the states which are now being formed are from that book, from that map. Mayawati, Uttarakhand, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, Telangana. We from Nagpur were asking for a separate Vidarbha because Ambedkar gave it. Now the reorganization of the state is a national issue. Yatri and a couple of people went to Babasaheb. It is you who can do it. Then Babasaheb wrote that long memorandum here. He justified as to why Bombay should be given, Mumbai should be given, including Maharashtra. It was not the issue of depressed classes, it was the issue of Maharashtra and nation. And he wrote that. In volume 1 it is all given. Then there are other issues of national importance in which Dr. Ambedkar contributed. In 1942 and 46, Dr. Ambedkar was a labor minister, all of you know. And Babasaheb Ambedkar had a portfolio with him. It was called labor member, but labor, irrigation, water, power, aviation, Air India was with him. Then DOPT, the renovation of Taj Mahal and other which he had done, 8 departments he had. And minerals. And it so happened that it was 42-46, Second World War came to an end. Indian soldiers who were supporting British against the Hitler would come back. And they have to be rehabilitated. They have to be given job. Then there were hundreds of industries in India which were manufacturing defense goods for the war. So those industries will have to now produce other goods. So there was a plan made by the British government called rehabilitation plan. Marshall Plan for Europe, rehabilitation plan for India. When the committee was constituted, there were all the 8 ministers, Babasaheb was one of the members and a very eminent economist. What they did was they changed the title of the plan. They called Rehabilitation and Reconstruction, Economic Reconstruction Plan. Imagine the shrewdness of the Indians. And they got the money from the British that this is a reconstruction plan. Also rehabilitation, but it will require economic development. The industry will have to be converted. You know, I go to Bangalore because I am chairman of one of the organization, and there is a factory which produced the sandal soap. It's still there, I think. The sandal soap was a very rough soap which was manufactured to wash the military cloth. And now they have sophisticated it, now it is a beautiful soap. But this was a factory which was manufacturing soap for the military at that point of time. The important point is that this reconstruction and rehabilitation plan. I don't have a time again. Dr. Ambedkar decided the objective of economic plan, strategy of economic plan, policies for labor. Somkor wanted me to say about the workers, another thing. Policy for labor and policies for scheduled castes. And he did that, lot many things for the labor. Everything that you have for the labor, regulated working hours, living wage, working conditions, social security, job security, that woman will not work during night time. All these labor laws and tripartite agreement, that decision should be taken by the union and industry and the government. All these were brought by Babasaheb for labor. But most important will be that there are other things that he did. And my book, which is referred by Offshore, is Water and Power was with him. Nobody knew. And when his 100th birth anniversary was being selected, the Ministry of Water came to know that Dr. Babasaheb did something for water, but they did not know much. They gave advertisement in the newspaper, it didn't happen. So somebody told him that you better approach Thorat in jail, he will do something. So they came with me. I say, I am a deep student of Ambedkar, but I have never heard of his role in water and power policy. Then they showed me a couple of articles by Vasant Moon in his volume and Bhagwan Das. And I said, okay, they gave me 50,000 rupees and I did that. I produced an 80-page document, give it to them. It came out that Dr. Ambedkar was in fact a founder of the water and power policy at the center. He set up Central Water Irrigation Navigation Commission, which is called Central Water Commission now. Right. Central Electricity Authority. Then he developed a policy. I don't have time to talk about policy, but that's a very new policy. But most importantly, he started construction on Damodar River. So Damodar Dam was Ambedkar's dam. Hirapur Dam was Ambedkar's dam. Foundation stone was laid down by him. Soul River was Dr. Ambedkar's dam at that point of time. And most importantly, the electricity was in private sector. It was brought into government sector by Dr. Ambedkar. So he laid down the foundation of water policy at the center. I am not talking of state. State had their own irrigation policy, but center. And so the ministry that is set up now is because of him. Now the ministry celebrates Dr. Ambedkar's birthday as a Jayanti, water day. I was invited by when one of the chief minister of Madhya Pradesh, that lady, what is her name? Uma Bharti. She was a water minister, and she says it was shown to her that this is the Thorat who has brought out this book, and they had brought out an internal report. He said, all Thorat. I didn't respond because I keep distance from a particular government, respectful distance. She said, no, we want him. So she called me, you have to come. You forget about the government. So I went there, participated, told the entire story. And then she was sitting with me. He said, I want to announce a couple of things. What can you suggest? Give me one. I said, you announce Dr. Babasaheb's birthday as a water day. She announced as a Jal Day. So Jal Day is celebrated in Water Ministry every year, Babasaheb's birth anniversary. The point is, water, power was not a Dalit issue. They did not have a land, they were landless. It was the water and power is an issue for those who are landowner. When Sharad Pawar came to know about this book, he was very hilarious that here is Dr. Ambedkar to talk about irrigation development, and there is something at least for us, landowner. So that book is translated by Seva in Marathi. Sharad Pawar informed the ministry, buy 50 copies. So somebody went and bought 50 copies from Vilas Wagh. He said, why do you need 50 copies? He says, Honorable Sharad Pawar has asked us to buy. And then he wrote an article on that in Sakama. Now this is the controversy. Now who can do this? It can be done by a person who is motivated by the national concern. And let me tell you one thing, that minerals was also with Dr. Babasaheb. You know his photograph, he is going into the mine. And he created employment exchange in Kolkata. My suspicion is I could not do minerals because that was not my mandate. The Central Water Commission had given me 50,000, but then I asked Central Water Commission that you don't take single decision without writing on the file. Here is a Mahanadi Dam, Hirapur Dam, Son Dam, and you don't have a file. And then he was Joshi from Nagpur, and he was sitting on the chair, which big chair, but there was another chair, and on that chair was written Central Water Irrigation Navigation Commission, Quink, original name. And I showed him that chair belonging to Dr. Ambedkar's period. So he said, what do you want? I said, give me 50,000 rupee more and give me the files I would like to study. Then he gave me 1,000 pages of file and another 50,000 rupees, and that is how that book has come. The point that I want to tell you people is that Dr. Ambedkar has mineral with him. My suspicion is that he had gas also with him. But you have to study it. Take a project and you will discover that Dr. Ambedkar has contributed, along with mineral, he has possibly contributed to the gas also, gas promotion. The point that I want to mention that in economic development, Dr. Ambedkar has a major role. When he resigned in 1946, the entire project went to the first 5-year plan. But nobody talked about that. Very few people talk about this. When my book came, then only they began to talk. Everybody took credit. I want to tell one very sensitive incident, and then I switch over to the other point. When the foundation stone was laid by Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar and governor at that time, there was agitation by the people in Orissa that our land is being taken. Normal agitation that you take the land without paying compensation. So that was postponed for 5 years. Finally, Orissa Assembly approved Hirapur Dam in 1955. Nehruji went. And the famous sentence of Nehruji to celebrate is that these are our temple, Nehruji mentioned. It so happened, it's a romance of the time, that the governor who was chairing was Khosla. And Khosla was the engineer with Bhakra Nangar, and Babasaheb brought him from there and made him a chairman of the Central Water Navigation Commission. By that time he had retired, but he was a governor of Orissa, but chairing the session as a governor. And he was an honest man, and he told the entire story of Iraq, that how Dr. Ambedkar had a role in this. And then when I was writing book, one person from Orissa, he brought all those papers to me, and I was surprised to see in Oriya, but he translated for me. The important point that one must remember that Dr. Ambedkar has contributed tremendously in economic development and planning. There are other aspects I don't have time to go through. But I will end by making one point and then. So these are his contributions. Independent, constitution making right from 1920, state reorganization, minorities. And then I forgot to tell you, Hindu Code Bill for women. Women was a general problem. He resigned because Congress did not take an initiative sufficient enough to pass the Hindu Code Bill. He prepared the Hindu Code Bill to give the right to the woman, right to divorce, right to property, and several other rights. And it is Hindu women which went in a delegation to oppose the Hindu Code Bill. They went on a strike. So when this delegation went to Babasaheb asked them the question, have you read the Hindu Code Bill? They said no. He said, look, that code bill gives you the right. He said, no, our husband have told us that no, it is criticizing Hindu Rashtra, Hindu Shastra. He said, you better go and read it. This is for you. So, and he was so committed that one of the reasons for resigning as a minister was Hindu Code Bill. You know everybody. So the Hindu Code Bill. So these are his sphere of national importance. And remember one thing, most of it also lead to result and outcome. Constitution, independence, water policy, economic development policy, electricity policy, labor, women, it's resulted into. That is why we can call him what these people are saying is architect of India, one of the architects of India. He really resulted. But last point that I wanted to share with you is that, which is also a national issue, that is his contribution to depressed classes. His depressed class commitment was beyond. He lived for that and died for that. When I'm going little forward, that when this issue of reservation came in the Constitutional Assembly, reservation for everybody was opposed, including scheduled caste. There is a background to it. That when the partition took place, reservation given to every religious minorities and scheduled caste, scheduled tribe. By Constitutional Assembly, when the partition took place, Patel and company got very angry. That separate electorate is the reason why Pakistan was created, separated. And so they took a decision, they reverted the decision of the Constitutional Assembly and take away the reservation of the minority, religious minority, Muslims, Sikhs, not Sikhs, Christians, Anglo-Indian, European. And they pursued Dr. Ambedkar that you please withdraw your demand for reservation even for the scheduled caste, political reservation, of course job also. At that time there is a famous sentence by Dr. Babasaheb, but they say, I came in the Constitutional Assembly to protect the interests of the scheduled caste. I fought throughout all my life. I cannot do it. If you like, I resign from the chairmanship of the drafting committee. That was a threat to Patel. And then finally what happened? All the reservation of minority was taken. Scheduled castes were given political reservation for 10 years. The 10 year came because of this. Let us begin with 10 years. So that was the commitment of Babasaheb Ambedkar. So I need not tell you that whatever you are here today is because of Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar. Because he developed the rights. Because he is the first one to articulate the problem of the Dalit. Of course, there were people, Phule, Chokha Mela, and there were certain reformers. But the real analysis of the tragedy of the untouchable came to Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar, that he studied Manusmriti and all religious shastras and studied how their situation is, what are the causes and what solution you require. So if you read the Memorandum to South Bureau Commission, it's clearly indicated that equal right to everybody, legal safeguard against discrimination and reservation in public service. There was no entry to the untouchable in military. There was no entry to the untouchable in police. Whatever a obnoxious act. So he said that there has to be reservation for scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, and the office. So it began with that, and then simultaneously built a social movement with Mahad and all that. Then also when he found that there is a good mobilization of the scheduled caste, he converted them into a political party, Independent Labour Party. Converted it into Scheduled Caste Federation, later converted into a Republican Party of India. So entire political movement, social movement he built up. But bullseye, that you require policy which will bring changes in the economic life and educational life of the scheduled caste. He didn't stop at analyzing, find out the sources, giving the reason. No. Policies, remedies. He didn't use the word policies, he used the remedies and asked for the remedies for economic and educational and political upliftment. So you have to read his memorandum in Roundtable Conference. And he got step by step. I told you that in 1990 he gave a memorandum to South Bureau Commission and asked for a political reservation. He didn't get it. But he got one. And what was that? Okay, in Bombay Presidency we will nominate one scheduled caste. That was the first success of Dr. Ambedkar. And who was nominated? Babasaheb himself was the beneficiary of his demand. He was nominated in 1925 in the Bombay Assembly. In fact, there is a story told by my British colleague that when he went to second time to UK, to complete his DSc, he was called by the Labour government. He said, "You stop your study, you go, we nominate you in the Bombay Assembly. Your demand is accepted." He said, "No, let me complete my study." So the first gain of his demand was not political reservation, representation through nomination, of which Babasaheb was a beneficiary, and later on a couple of others were there. Then he fought, continued to fight. Finally he got a political reservation in 1931 through a fight with Gandhiji. Gandhiji went into fast unto death, but there was agreement. First time political reservation, I think 150 constituencies. Greatest achievement of Dr. Ambedkar. Labour Ministry, 1942-46. What did he do? If you read Pune Pact carefully, Pune Pact is about the political reservation to scheduled caste. The scheduled caste word came in with the Pune Pact. Earlier it was depressed class. There is a last para that Dr. Ambedkar was continuously asking: reservation in public services, reservation in education, financial support for education development. But Pune Pact is only for political reservation. So there is a small para at the end. People didn't realize, but Ambedkar asked that at least you promise us that you will do something for us. So there is a last para that it will be endeavor of the effort of the government to give space to the scheduled caste in the public sector job and also some financial assistance for educational promotion. When Dr. Ambedkar went as a minister, he took out that para. Look at his intelligence. Took out that para, wrote a confidential letter to Lingit Go, who was the viceroy at that time. That this is the commitment, Pune Pact. You have given us a political reservation, but this is also a promise. So give us a reservation. So he fought with Lingit Go. And finally, reservation was made in public services in 1944. Not in 1915, 1944. There was office order. First was 8%, then went to 12%, then they agreed according to population ratio. And then for educational, 2 scholarships were introduced. One is the post-matric scholarship that we talk about, and another is the overseas scholarship. 44. And under that, he sent 2 batches to UK and USA. You know that. UK and many other, Ratnakar Gaikwad's father went to England. When Babasaheb went in 1932, these all 8 students were there. They went to him and there is a photograph now. So the political reservation in public job, and educational reservation and financial support for education development was already done by Dr. Ambedkar in 1944, which was then incorporated in the Constitution. It was easy to bring it in the Constitution. So therefore, I think the people love him larger than their life. Dr. Dr. Babasaheb is bigger than life now, timeless. Because everything that what we have today, which bring some mobility, is because of him. And of course, in the Constitution, then he brought the principle of equality, equal opportunity, non-discrimination. Untouchability is banned in Constitution. Do you have any example in the world? You can say that the Constitution will say that non-discrimination based on religion, caste, gender, race is prohibited. Okay. No, he forced the Constitution to add that untouchability is banned and considered as a criminal offence subject to punishment. And then he suggested in state and minority socialism. He wanted nationalization of land and distribution of land to the scheduled caste because he believed that land reform will not help. That is what precisely has happened. He wanted key and basic industry with the government, insurance, education with the government. But that was not accepted, whole of it. So intelligently he brought something else. And that is, he brought directive principle. Directive principle of the state policy, Article 46. He brought it from Ireland. Directive principles are not enforceable in the court of law like fundamental right. But these are direction to the government that they should follow this policy of removal of injustices, social injustices, wealth inequality and well-being. The directive principle Supreme Court has interpreted is the agenda for economic upliftment, and fundamental right is the agenda for the political freedom. So he brought directive principle in the Constitution. That was a single-handed contribution of Dr. Babasaheb. Now what I am saying is that this policy for the discriminated group was conceived and developed by Babasaheb Ambedkar much before it was adopted in UK, USA. But this policy is also policy of nation building. How? Because he was the one who was able to understand what are the problem of discriminated group, what are the sources, what can be done. Now this was used for scheduled caste. Now where it has gone? From scheduled caste to scheduled tribe to OBC, OBC denotified tribe and nomadic tribe, from scheduled caste to women who are asking for a political reservation, but they have also informal reservation policy, from scheduled caste to religious minority informally, and now the height has come that economically weaker section got a 10% reservation. Who is responsible for all this? It is Ambedkar's thinking and solution which has led to reservation even for economically weaker section and several sections in the society. Why? Because he theorized it. He understood the Indian society, that Indian society is exclusionary, discriminatory. It isolates people. It denies people. It is not only the untouchable who suffer, but Shudra suffered, women suffered. So each one has a problem, although the intensity differ. And therefore he gave a solution of treating equal civil right, legal remedies against discrimination, reservation, and also he has suggested right in 1930, set up a commission, separate commission to study and watch the progress of scheduled caste. That's why you have scheduled caste commission. It was originally scheduled caste, scheduled tribe commission, now they are separate. Now what has happened? OBC got a commission. DNT has a commission now, Hidate, Maharashtrian, he is the chairman of it. What is the story in Maharashtra? SC commission, OBC commission, Sathe commission, Maratha commission. For each caste you have a commission now. Isn't it? Who gave this ideology and strategy? It is Dr. Ambedkar. Now friend, I just want to summarize that. Indeed, Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar was a national leader, a patriotic leader, and he played a role in restructuring of India and creating what India is today. And therefore, and why people remember him, there is one more reason. I'll take only 2 minutes. That there are people who have also done some role here and there. Obviously, Patel has a role, Gandhiji of course has a role, Nehruji has a role, but Dr. Ambedkar's role is multiple. But there is one difference between them and Dr. Ambedkar, that is that Babasaheb Ambedkar, although he said that we have a nation governed by the 5 principles, secularism, socialism, democracy, sovereignty and republic, and goal is equity, fraternity, justice. He said that we are a nation in making. We do not fulfill those conditions which are necessary for making a nation real nation. Nation means equality, freedom, fraternity, which is absent because of caste system. Therefore, we should try to overcome this caste system and unequal and freedom. So he warned them that the nation will be successful provided you remove the caste system. And in fact, in Thoughts on Pakistan, he has defined nation. He says to be a proper nation, there has to be communication between the communities. There has to be a participation in social life through social relation, marriages. Your pain should be my pain. My sorrow should be your sorrow. My happiness should be your happiness. That doesn't happen. When women of one particular caste are assaulted, only that caste cries. Others keep quiet. Or fraternity is divided, or charity is divided. So Dr. Ambedkar has given that what will make the nation real nation. Similarly, democracy. He said that we have a parliamentary democracy, but democracy is also we are in making. And then he laid down the condition of what will make the democracy successful. He lectured in the library of Law College of Pune and also DV College Jalandhar. I am not going into that, but he said that if you need an economic democracy, you need a social democracy for successful democracy. Hero worship. Avoid hero worship. I don't want to make anything point. But hero worship will kill the democracy. Violence will kill the democracy. You have to follow constitutional morality. Even if constitution is there, he used the word, if the people, those who are implementing are a bad lot, however good is the constitution will fail. As rightly said, that Britain doesn't have a written constitution. Their constitution is in culture and values. They respect them. So, Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar is relevant simply because he not only presented the institution, but he warned the people that don't be under illusion that you have a nation, that you have a democracy. No, you have a working nation, working democracy. These are the things which are necessary to fulfill those, bring the real nation, bring the democracy. And he gave warning also, and those warnings have come true now. For not following his suggestion, we are in trouble. We are trying to give a sort of religious base to the nation, religious base to democracy, caste base to democracy. So I think he is important. He will grow. You cannot stop him. There will be more statue of him because if you have a problem, Ambedkar is the solution. Nobody else is the solution.